Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. Under the Hood.
Want to try that again?
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. Thanks for joining us.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Well, the SEMA show is in full swing out in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Convention Center. Mm-hmm. We've got some of our staff there is out there right now. One of our staff is out there right now doing his thing and talking with some of our partners of the show and checking out some of the stuff. And one of the things that they had out there that kind of caught my eye was the Ford E-Rod package. Mm-hmm. It's not pronounced E-Rod, I don't believe, because I think that's GM's line. GM has one now, an electric vehicle engine you can buy, the motor. You can buy the motor and the batteries set up and put it in your street rod or convert whatever you want. Ford now has got this new package, and they unveiled it. They put it in a 1978 Ford truck.
I saw that picture just this morning.
Pretty nice looking truck, and I saw it this morning as well. And the only thing they did different to it, they put their package in it, but they updated the dash a little bit. They kept the old look, but they wanted to put some of the gauges in the same general area.
They took a drivetrain from a Mach.
That's their E-Rod package, which is it's pretty neat deal. I think we're going to see more of this as we go, and probably younger generation I think would start this because if people are used to it, there's a lot of kickback from older people that just hate electric stuff. But the young kids, that's their thing. Kind of like the tuner cars. We grew up on big muscle cars, full size V8 big body cars. A lot of the younger generation likes those, but even more of them seem to like the tuner cars, smaller cars.
We had this discussion, my son and I, last week, and he has no preference, no opinion on gas versus electric. He just, if he would like a fast car.
He's the neutral generation.
So he's just all for electric and wouldn't bat an eye.
So you could say some are positive, some are negative, and some are neutral about electric?
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely you can. 866-594-4150.
That was weak.
That was really weak.
I'm always good for the weak dad type jokes. Just
for sure.
Wait for it. They're coming.
Uh-huh.
We'll be surprised.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jay. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Jay?
Well, hey, Shannon. How you doing? It's been a long time.
Well, yes, it has.
Russ. So I got a general automotive question for you. I got a big fleet of vehicles, and sensors. It seems to me that most of the time when I have a problem with a vehicle, it's a sensor that went out. It's not the problem the sensor's supposed to be overlooking and watching. It's the sensor itself. Why do we have so many sensors? Because the sensors seem to be the problem more than the vehicles that they're censoring.
I like that. They're censoring us.
Well, ask the government. They seem to know all about that kind of stuff, I guess.
Yeah,
they have for years, right? I mean, since the dawn of time.
We don't do politics.
We don't?
Maybe.
So say ask. Don't ask us. We have no opinion. Sensors are just junk, they break. You put an electron. What you supposed to do with an electronic piece of equipment? You're supposed to protect it and love it, right?
Yeah.
What do? They throw it under the hood where it can get beat up with tons of vibration. Thousands of RPM per minute, freezing cold to boiling hot, and dipped in oil and gasoline, and then we think they're supposed to last forever.
Jay, how often when?
But see, I'll go back.
I just
I'll go back to that though. So.
Okay, Jay.
So I'll go back to that. So when I go on a long distance, I'm sorry, when I go on a long distance trip, I've got one of those machines that you can plug in and you can wipe out a sensor so you can keep driving so it doesn't put you in limp mode. In my line of business, limp mode isn't good. But, again, back to the same question, it's normally the sensor that goes out and not the thing that it's supposed to be watching over. That's the issue I'm having.
Maybe for you, but not in general in our shop. When they come in, it's usually a part that has failed. We have sensors that go bad, but we have more parts that fail than sensors that fail. Although we put our fair share of sensors in, but it's usually like in an evap system, the sensor doesn't fail. It's usually a vent valve or a purge valve or a canister that fails, and then the sensor catches it. So we replace the whole thing, which includes the sensor. We have catalytic converters that fail, not the sensors in the exhaust as much. They can fail now and then, but usually it's the converter that fails when that goes out. And when you get attached to the engine itself, usually it's an oil pressure sensor that fails and not the oil pressure. Usually it's a cam sensor that fails and not the camshaft. Usually it's a fuel rail pressure sensor that fails and not the fuel pump. Though I'd say those are about 50-50 because we can lose fuel pressure when a pump goes out. But the reason I think those fail more often is because they're hot, very hot. And they're plugged right into oil or they're plugged right into fuel. That makes sense.
Jay, what I was going to say is that for those that may not recognize the voices is Jay Major, and he has MedStar Dirt Rescue as one of the things, safety and rescue as one of the things that he does. He does multiples of things. But when you're out on the track and your guys are doing your thing out there, you probably don't see a lot of sensor failure on the Outlaw Sprint cars, do you?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
But, the vehicles are getting more complicated, as Russ explained, and one of the things that we're looking forward to, kind of, is when they start getting more diagnostic information on the vehicles so that they can actually, on the fly, help themselves and learn more. I mean, we're not quite to that point yet, but we're getting way closer with telematics back to the manufacturers and the communication with the owners. They still are just steering you into a dealership typically to get it fixed.
Right.
But there will be a lot of things that they'll be able to over-the-air repair, and that's only going to happen with sensors. But I think that there is an issue with quality on some of the items that they put in. When they manufacture fleets of vehicles and they're working with different vendors, I think they've got some really good vendors that make things for certain manufacturers, and I think other ones do find a price point, and there's a life expectancy on some of that stuff, knowing full and well that it may not last 100 years, but hopefully it'll last about 6.
Jay, thanks very much. Thanks very much for the call. I think I always go back to I think we forget the past. I never used to have sensors go out on my fleet of vehicles back when we used to run them all night long because in the winter you had to run them 24 hours a day. Or I remember my mom never had a sensor go out on her transmission, but at 60,000 miles, it was a high mileage transmission and she had to get them replaced. I think you just remember things differently. I mean, like the cars, they don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't.
Good.
They make them better.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Kim in Minnesota. Kim, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
I've got a 2010 Chevy Duramax, and I get when I scan it, and when I'm driving it, it's usually under load. I'm going up a hill or something with a heavier load, and then it will go into limp mode on me, and that's what the code comes up. It's low fuel rail pressure.
This has been a problem on a lot of those trucks in that generation of the GM truck. And it can come from two things. It can either come from a failing injection pump on the engine. That CP3 pump can be failing. Or one of the other things that happens is the fuel lines collapse. If it's doing it, you get it on a hot day, you're driving down the road, you have a lot of exhaust heat and stuff, a lot of transfer case transmission heat builds up. The lines get soft. It gets under a high vacuum condition trying to suck that fuel up to the engine, and the line collapses, starves the engine for fuel, goes into limp mode, get a low fuel pressure code, but that can also be from that pump on the engine, so don't let that fool you. One of the ways around that, whether it's the lines or the pump, is a system that adds fuel pressure from the rear with filters, like an Air Dog makes one. There's probably a dozen of them or more out there. Bolts on under the frame, pulls fuel out of the tank, and then pushes it up to the front. That'll help extend the life of that pump, because if you starve it for fuel when it's that hot, it's going to score it up and kill it. And if the lines collapse, it's going to cause a problem with it. So if you can add that to it, even if it's already starting to happen, if you add a pump to it like that, that can really help. But once that pump, we've had some so bad, and GM has bulletins about it, that when they fail and there's metal in the system, you have to replace the fuel tank, the fuel lines, the fuel cooler. Now we're all the way up to the engine, the CP3 pump on the engine, the fuel filter housing, and all the injectors and all the injector lines. So I've just told you to replace the entire fuel system on the truck.
You just said like $10,000.
It's thousands of dollars, yes. And we've done several of them that have had that problem. We take them apart and we just keep finding metal everywhere we go.
And metal is not allowable in those systems.
No, because if you leave anything left in the end of a rail and go, oh, it's pretty good, and it gets back into the tank, and then it makes its way back around in a month and gets to the engine, it's done again. So you've got to replace the whole thing when that happens. But you can prevent some of those things by adding a little booster pump to it. And that's, if you just type in like Air Dog or Duramax booster pump or things, you'll find those
And it's not
things.
just that they increase the pressure; they improve the fuel flow. They take the air out of it.
They're just giving it a little flow. They're not trying to shove extra. They're trying to get the supply where it needs to go. If it's not going to increase your fuel rate. So if you're using, X amount of gallons per hour, you're still going to use that, but it's not going to allow it to starve for fuel. And that's what you want to avoid, is your fuel starvation.
And that's why the fuel additives are so important too, with today's fuel, to keep that lubricity in there, just to add lubricity to it.
Is the truck running good otherwise? Does it always run great other than that?
Yeah, it runs real good. It's just heavy load and going up a hill or something, and then it's happened quite a few times. But
Okay.
I've changed fuel filter. I don't think it was fuel filtering like that too, but it doesn't make any difference.
Well, the one thing you definitely want to do is, if it has not had a new bleeder screw installed in the top of the fuel filter housing, buy one, put it in. It's super cheap, because that can cause some air in there. But if I owned one of these trucks, the first thing I would do would be to throw that type of system on there, like that Air Dog or something. We don't have any partners that carry anything like that, so just kind of go on to Summit Racing or somebody, or Jags, or any four-wheel drive shop. They're going to have that. Get it installed. I had a couple friends that put them on their trucks that pull big horse trailers with them, and it immediately fixed the problem, and they've had no problem since. And that was great, because they weren't affording $10,000 to replace the entire fuel system on one.
And if you work for one of those companies, we have an opening on that.
Yeah,
that
it sounds like
market.
we do.
Yeah.
And in the old days, you'd run into these problems with some of the vehicles. I say old days, but before all this late model Duramax and Power Strokes and everything, just cracked filter housings where the fuel filters would go on, and they would suck air there. You just couldn't get a good seal, and you'd start having these same kind of problems. So
I haven't had that problem with mine.
You definitely got to get that thing tight all the way through, and that fuel improver is big time important for a lot of these guys.
Got to get fuel up to that engine.
Kim, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Just dawned on me, as Kim was talking, what Jay was saying, our previous call, when he said going in limp mode for him is not good. Yeah, if you're an ambulance, you don't really want to be stuck in second gear going to the hospital at 18 miles
not a good
an
thing.
hour.
If I'm in the back, I don't want you in limp mode.
Yeah, for sure.
And he doesn't want his patients going into limp mode either.
No.
I was going home the other night, and an ambulance. I gotta figure it. It was coming down the road, and I mean I was doing 80 on the interstate, and it had no lights on, but it caught up with me quickly and passed me. And I was like, what the heck? And, of course, it slowed down for the big exit corner,
Sure.
so I caught back up with it again. And then it just was gone. But it was from someplace like way, way far away. And, I mean, it kind of reminded me of that scene from, the whole thing of Cannonball Run with the ambulance where I was like, why is this ambulance here going this fast? It was odd. And I thought, when Jay called in with that, I thought, oh, yeah, ambulance. You want those things to go when they need to go.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Colin. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Colin, what can we do for you?
Well, I drive an 85 Chrysler Fifth Avenue, and the left turn signal stopped blinking. So I checked and found a burned filament on the rear bulb, replaced it, and it still doesn't blink. The right side blinks normally, but the left side, both the front and the rear bulbs light up, but it doesn't blink. Are there like two flashers on that unit, or where might I look to diagnose it?
I want to get a little background on this car for our hoodies. The 85 Fifth Avenue. Is this the rear-wheel drive V8 Fifth Avenue?
Yes, 318 automatic rear-wheel drive.
All right, so we're still talking about a variant of the cars that they wrecked on the Blues Brothers. Well, no, maybe
Is it an ex-patrol car?
Not a Fifth Avenue, probably not. I'm going to guess not.
That'd be a Diplomat.
Or a Fury or something like that. But this is a big old American iron framed car.
That's the one with the fluffy seats.
Yeah.
The Fifth Avenue with the
Tufted.
fluffy seats.
Does it have a padded vinyl top?
Just half of it.
Okay, half Landau.
And it's got the pillow top
Yep.
seats.
Is it? Oh, I got to
Not
do
the
it. I got to
rich
do.
Corinthian
I got
leather.
to do it right now. Is
Yeah.
it blue, gray, silver somewhere in there?
It is gold.
I was going to say maroon if I would
Oh,
have
you guys never got a
guess.
guess. I'm sorry. I was doing so well. I thought I'd just keep going.
I didn't have a clue.
Blinkers.
Did you put the right bulb in it? Did you match up the number on your old bulb versus the new one and not just get one that had the two posts on the bottom of it?
It's an 1157 with the offset post.
Oh, okay. Because they have, if you don't have the correct, I'm not sure if that one's an 1157 or if that one's got a different number in it, but they have different resistance because of cars with either 1, 2, 3, or 4 bulbs in their circuit on each side. And if you don't have enough resistance, front or rear, it's not going to blink. That's how the flasher works. The flasher, you turn it on, it heats up, it opens. It cools down, it closes. It heats up, it opens. So that's how they work, Chris. I should show you one time.
Yeah.
It's broken apart. So anyways, it's
Seems like it would be easily temperamental.
yeah. Well, no, if you got the right bulb in there, fine. But
suppose.
the two things that can really affect that is a worn out flasher or the wrong bulb. And if you have poor ground in the system, it'll do that as well, which would make the bulb, if it's lit, it would have to be a little dimmer than the other side. If you find out you've got all the correct bulbs in it, you can do a quick fix because most of the flashers now are electronic. They're not the old thermal type flasher with the heater in it. It's you turn them on and they work. And they're made for LED bulbs and things like that have much less resistance. So if you buy one of those and plug in, it's just going to flash at the correct rate. So that might be something to, if you look at it and say, it's got the same number bulb as the right side, look at the right side and see what number's in the front and the rear of the right side and make sure the left matches. If it does and it's still not flashing, just get yourself a new flasher that's constant velocity electric flasher.
Does that help you out there, Colin?
Okay, so I can put a newer, modern flasher
Yeah.
in place of the old one.
Yeah, they're just called an electronic flasher, and they go in there. They're made so you can run LED lights or standard lights with it. They just blink at a timed rate instead of thermal rate.
Still got the hood ornament on there?
Yeah, it's a Pentastar crystal, and the light shines through it, creates a little rainbow.
That'd probably be illegal now. Distracting. Colin, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. If you like our Facebook page and you join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Jack Ryder, who listens to us in Mankato, Minnesota. No relation to the truck rental company.
No? You sure?
Spelling the same?
Yeah. But I don't think it'd be the same guy. Would he listen to our show?
Heck yeah.
Maybe the BB gun guys.
We don't have it. I think that was just a name of the type of BB gun.
Is that the Red Rider?
Red Rider, yeah.
Daisy?
That's spelled different, isn't it?
Yeah, that's RIDER.
Yeah.
We digress.
This hoodie giveaway is sponsored by Universal Technical Institute, your place to go to be trained for everything. I got to be serious because it is a serious thing. They UTI.edu. They've got so much knowledge wrapped up in their professional instructors. They can teach you everything you're going to want to know when you become a better automotive technician or a new automotive technician. From electric vehicles to gas vehicles, alternative fuels, everything in between. They're there to get you educated, get you the knowledge you need to work on cars. Anything you can imagine, pretty much, they're there for you. Check out uti.edu today and just take a look. Just see what they got. Look at their vast number of campuses they have across the country.
If you live in the north, look at where their campuses are and see if you want to move down there where it's warm.
Arizona, Texas.
They should have just like a half a year program where it takes like an extra year, but it's just the cold weather months. Yeah. You can go down there like November to March.
So instead of like a year program, I'll go with the 2-year program, but I'll just go in the winter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Wisconsin and talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood Show. John, what can we do for you?
Hey, I don't know if this is really kind of stuff you deal with for your show, but my wife owns an 06 Honda Civic, and mechanically it's pretty sound because slowly but surely along the way we've had to replace a whole lot of stuff. So
lots of dollars worth.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, the car is almost brand new. But anyway, the problem I have is with the body of her car. Most of the car's life was in Arizona. The sun just took a beating on all of the rubber gaskets that go around all the windows, moonroof, and that kind of stuff. And I've been wondering what kind of a project am I looking at trying to replace all that, and just exactly what are those little pieces called, because I don't even know how to look them up to find prices.
That was one thing I liked about the 69 Beetle when I had it. The catalogs, you could buy just new rubber was all of the rubber gaskets on
What was that place in California? They have all that stuff. I can't even remember the name right off.
J-Bugs.
J-Bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like J.
Yeah, it was great. You could just one click, and it was every piece of rubber on the car.
And they've got so many cars of their own. It's crazy.
They didn't have 06 Civics in there,
No,
did they?
I don't think so.
Just Bugs, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Beetles and Bugs. Those
Yeah.
cars are so fun. No. But yours leaked oil.
I didn't care.
That sun the UV just raises heck with that stuff on certain cars.
There's only one thing I would do on that Civic, and Shannon, you know exactly what. I'd go to the one place and get every one of them at the same place, and they're as simple as grabbing a hold of the edge and pulling them off and then snapping them on yours. And where would that be? Because I haven't seen one with worn out seals in our shop.
No, if you went to a self-service facility somewhere in your market and seen if they, like at our place here where we do our self-service in our home market.
We're the Wisconsin temperate zone.
Yeah.
Same.
We have a website, and you can see what vehicles are out in the lot.
It seems kind of self-serving.
It is.
But that's okay.
But we don't.
We're serving this guy.
We don't know what parts could be missing.
That's true.
But you can go out there and say, okay, there's an 06 Civic. Here's what it looked like before it went out there. But
stripping.
I would think that would be a good place to start hunting for weather stripping. Because if you did call Honda and you didn't know what to call it, You're looking for door weather stripping. You're looking for weather seal is what they call it. It's called molding, gasket. They've got different terminologies in the catalogs, but weather stripping is probably one of the more common names.
And it's typically not glued on. Most of the, except for the sunroof, maybe. But the rest of the car is going to be usually just, we pull it off to do repairs all the time. We just grab it, whoop, and it should pop off.
I think I've mentioned before on the show working on an older 06 Range Rover, and we had a water leak issue, and so we had that all tore apart. And one of the things I did on that vehicle is I dropped down the complete sunroof, and Range Rover still sold a replacement weather strip for around the sunroof.
You're just beating yourself up, aren't you?
And it wasn't that expensive, and it was a little bit of a pain to get it replaced, to get it stretched the right distance so it sealed all the way around and everything. You had to get it just the right temperature. I found out was kind of the key to make it work and get it to stay on there. But that was not that expensive because like Russ said, that could be one that could be a little bit tricky. But the door ones are fairly easy.
And the roof. It has drains. It's made to leak a little bit. They're never 100% sealed up. They just run down the tubes.
Yeah, make sure your drains are sealed up, or make sure your drains are open so that the water can get out of there. Yeah, don't seal the drains.
Don't seal that.
Now, are you having a problem around the windshield or the back glass? I'm going to guess that's probably okay because they're urethaned in, like the quarter windows. Is that stuff all okay?
Well, actually, that was going to be something I asked about. Between the glass of the windshield and the frame of the car, there's actually quite a big gap, like at least an inch, maybe 2 inches in toward the bottom, that I'm guessing something snaps in there or like something has to be missing. I can't imagine a car is designed that way.
Depend on the car, depending on the vehicle, and so I'm making a general statement that's not specific to your Civic. But we know a lot of windshield replacement guys, and on some windshields, after they put the new windshield in, they're able to use a universal seal that can go around the outside edge. Some have no seal at all. The windshield is just within, an eighth of an inch of the body of the car all the way around, and that's just how it sets in there. But then there are other back glasses, quarter windows, and some windshields that have the molding encapsulated, they call it, right to the glass. It's part of the manufacturing process of the glass. It's not designed to be replaced, and you end up having to either put an aftermarket type seal in there that they can get that will fill the void, or you have to replace the glass sometimes on certain ones of those when that encapsulated molding gets ruined.
And to John's question on that last part, I know one of our vehicles, we just had the windshield replaced on, so I was looking closely at it, and it looks like something's missing. When you look at it, it doesn't seem like it is right, and it is. It totally is.
Yeah,
fine.
the bottom's open. You can almost stick a credit card up under there in some cases.
You jump on Google and you look at some pictures of people that have the nice clean ones for sale and
check
things like that.
Check the one at the U-Pull-It.
Yeah, and just look. When you're there. I do a lot of looking to learn on this sort of thing.
You can go on car-part.com and find auto recyclers in your area, and then pick them out, give them a call, and see. A lot of them have self-service yards of those facilities. A lot of them don't, but they can direct you. And if they got a self-service facility, you just go on in and start
find
grabbing.
out the year range. It's the same. And you can. What we typically will do when we're trying to figure out either if we don't know, usually we know because we've done so much of it. But here's the resources: Wikipedia. Typically on any vehicle model will go through the generations. Yep. And they'll say first generation, second generation, third generation. And if you follow those generations, they typically have the same windshield hole, the same door openings, even though they may have done a fascia update or maybe change the taillights or appearance of the trunk lid or something like that. They typically have the same chassis molding of the unibody. And so if you look at what generations they are, that would be something to pay attention to. Otherwise, we get into our use part system, and we interchange the windshield. And I'll tell somebody, well, the windshield fits from 03 to 07. Most likely your other main parts are going to be real similar.
And on your place specifically, on your U-Pull-It, you list the cars still, right, that are there? Yeah. Do most do that now?
You'll see more and more of them do that, yeah. It's gotten to be a pretty common practice.
So, John, if you search a self-serve place on the web near you, it should or might list the actual cars that are there.
That's what I was saying earlier. Self-service used auto parts, that's a great option for that. Because if you call a full-service salvage yard, it's the kind of stuff that, yes, they have it, but it just isn't in the cards
Right.
to put the labor into it, pull it, bring it up. Oh, that's not quite good enough. It's got a little tear in it when we took it off. Can you find me another one? And you're working on like $50. It just doesn't add up.
John, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Here's a call that came in to the Hoodie Hotline.
Hi guys, it's Kevin from the UK again. You asked a question about the UK octane ratings and ethanol content. We've got two main octane ratings over here. We've got standard unleaded at 95 octane, which has got E10, so that's 10% ethanol. And then we've got 97, 98 octane, which has got E5, so that's 5% ethanol. And they're our main two ratings over here. There are some premium fuels from people like Shell and XL and Esso that are slightly higher octane rating, but they tend to be the same types of ethanol. So thanks for your answer on my truck. That was brilliant. I think the other car that I'm worried about over here, I also have a 1929 Model A Ford, which I'm concerned about with ethanol as well, but I'm putting some additive in on that one and mostly running it on super unleaded, so it's all okay so far. Keep it up. Great show. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks
Okay.
very much for the call.
We were all shocked when we heard that.
Yes.
Now, what I want to know is there some different conversion of this octane scale that could make that number
Well,
sound
they've
different
got
to us?
Mon
I
and
don't.
Ron, which is two different octane the way they do it, but still, either way, that's way higher than the United States.
Maybe that's why it's so expensive. Because it's way more
well,
expensive.
they
over
tax
there.
the crud out of everything over there.
Tax
It's
the crude out of it?
The crude, yeah. It's depending on how you pronounce it, but no, it's insane how much tax they put on fuel. But still, he's saying that's their standard, and then their next step up, and then their premium, which he's saying is also an ethanol blend over there. But that's how you get. We know for a fact that a lot of these little gas cars over there are getting way better fuel economy. And you're like, how do you get that kind of
If we gave
fuel
our
out
auto
of the country?
manufacturers 95 octane across the country,
Yeah.
they could do some crazy things,
Yeah.
and electric vehicles would not be around for another number of years.
Yeah, explain that, because that is.
So if you don't like electric vehicles, then you call
Keep
you know,
lobbying
those,
for
Yeah.
higher ethanol contents and higher octane ratings, and then the manufacturers can design engines that are more fuel efficient and less harmful on the environment on a higher octane rating scale.
and it's cheaper for the manufacturers to keep doing what they're currently doing than have to retool everything and come out with new models. So we'll see how the future goes, but that's pretty cool that but the Model A, yeah, don't worry about that. I've got 85% in my Model T, and if I could get, but it's only about 55 because that's all you can get when it comes out of the pump at E85. But if I could put straight 90 in there all the time, I'd do it.
We were somewhere the other day that the E85, one of the pumps said it was a minimum of 70. One of the pumps said that, and the other one said 55.
Were you out of state, or were you in Minnesota?
No, we were in northern South Dakota, northeastern.
Okay. Because there are, if it's labeled that way, you'll get it. But a lot of them are in that 55 5 range. But and you can't just throw that much ethanol in any old car.
Right.
But when we're talking this year Model A and Model Ts before that, you know, a lot of that stuff at the time, depending on where you lived, a lot of the fuel was basically corn based. A lot
Whatever
of farmers,
you made.
Yeah, a lot of farmers made their own fuel.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is that gas station you're at, was that near an ethanol plant? Was it like
It was in South Dakota.
I mean, but was it like a
So yes,
Cenex or something like that, or was
I
it?
can't remember.
Kind of curious.
Yeah. It was one that had, 3 or 4 ethanol pumps and then 3 regular pumps.
Sure.
Cylinders right on there, yeah. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. We had another call on a previous show about the 7s, the Chrysler 7 engines, and the
27, 37, 57.
And the listener called back and said, I
4.7.
watched the show. I watched the feed of the show, and I saw your face react when I said it. Explain what
All of us.
happened there.
Well, they're not all bad. The person said, well, it's a nitro and it's got 60,000 miles. How good is it? And we said, well, it could be just fine. But if you own one and it has a problem, you're going to remember it forever because it's going to be super expensive if you choose to fix it. And
So-
a lot of times it comes from not doing the proper maintenance on the car.
Tell us about that. Kind of give us the background on the 7s.
Just Chrysler has used that leader designation when they designed and engineered their engines. They started off, I think, the first one in my remembrance that really set the stage for a bad name was the 2.7 that they had in the Intrepids and a lot of those LH series cars, and they would start losing timing sets. The 3.5, which is another variant of that, would take out water pumps. The 2.7s proved to be a problem engine with head gaskets and lots of different things. It was the first real high-feature V6 that they put into that engine. High feature, we're talking overhead cams, chains, different things like that. And they proved to be a failing engine, high demand prices for replacement because it was such a high-featured engine. And it just gave a bad connotation to people in the repair industry, and I'm sure people that were selling vehicles that had to deal with some of that. And so then as they came into their next generations, they were already making 3.7, 4.7, 5.7. The best one out of the whole bunch is probably the 6.7, the diesels.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hemis, there's a ton of them out there that are good.
So
But
when
there
someone
was
says,
there was just enough problematic issues consistently with those smaller versions of those engines. I would say up to the 4.7, wouldn't you, Russ? It probably. I don't think the 5.7s in my eyes are any different than the Silverado 5.3s and the Ford 5.4s and the Tundra 5.7s.
How you drive them and how you take care of them.
But there was more problems per million with those 2.7s, 3.7s, 4.7s.
And it just seemed worse than the nitro than any of the other cars with 3.7s. And I don't know if it's because of the direction it sits in there or the heat or how they're used, but it just...
We wondered a little bit about the heat one time, and we also had one we put 3 engines in, and we found out there was problems with catalytic converters that would instantly heat up the combustion chambers.
That thing was gold. I still can picture it sitting there not running.
It killed engines like no tomorrow.
Well, yeah, the person who had it had put 2 engines in it. We got it in to put the 3rd engine in and fired it up. And the second it fired, we went, I think it sounds like it's choking to death. Pull the oxygen sensors out, took them out, and it ran perfect. And went, uh-huh.
So I guess for us, it's just probably an industry thing, knowing that we just, another one of them, and we react.
But they're
to
not. It. No, they're not all bad. And he had a question about his Mazda 3 as well. And without seeing that, we don't know. He says it started dying. A 1-cylinder dropped out after he told his kids, you shouldn't drive this because it's making a noise. That is a great piece of advice right there. If it's making weird noises, don't drive it until you find out what it is, because it very likely could have been saved. Probably had a valve train issue, and he thought it had dropped a valve. It probably did. Housekeeping. When you call the show and leave an after-hours, you leave an after-hours phone number, leave your number twice.
right?
Because this week I had 3 calls I would have really wanted to call back. They were great questions, but the number was, call me at 866-4150. And I was like, whoa, I don't have your number. But
that's good advice for all voicemails that you leave.
Anyway, right.
I got taught that by my dad's cousin a long time ago. He worked out in Hollywood in the film editing business, and I was young in business, and he happened to be walking in my office, and rest in peace, Russ Tinsley. And I remember him saying to me, he goes, when you leave that message for somebody, always repeat your number. I could still hear him telling me, he goes, you leave your number twice. Always leave your number twice. He said, because they never really get it the first time. Then they got to go back in and replay it again. He goes, if you give it twice, he goes, you're already their friend.
At
well,
the
they're
end.
listening. They're listening for it.
Again, this is Chris, my number, because then because you're going to call back and you weren't paying attention at the start.
Sorry, I cut you off there, Russ, but that was
that's
I
fine.
remember I can still hear the voice of Russ Tinsley in my head telling me, he goes, leave that twice.
We also had a question about motorcycles. This question was, do you And they didn't leave a phone number. So, yeah, we would have loved to have called you back. But they said we answer motorcycle questions, ATV and UTV and jet ski, whatever, airplane. We've answered some crazy stuff on the show over the years, and just some general, because we do just general automotive stuff, and we work on a lot of campers and all sorts of stuff at our own shop. But got to leave that number or we can't get a hold of you.
866-594-4150. Here's another call that came in to the Hoodie Hotline.
Hi, my name is Tony Clark. I'm calling from Los Angeles, California. I have a 1995 Jeep Wrangler YJ 4.0 engine. I've been experiencing this intermittent chirping in my engine during idle. Seems to be more pronounced during colder weather than warmer weather. I've tried looking at the idler pulleys, checking my belt. Everything seems to be fine, so I'm kind of stumped at this point, and I was wondering if...
So, belt. If it starts to chirp, and you're like, there it is, chirp, 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 and it's cold out, I would suggest get your belt tool, pop the belt off the lower pulley real quick, and fire it right back up, and see if the noise is gone. So there you can verify whether it's in the belt system or whether it's in the engine.
You can leave it running for 30 seconds. You're not going to hurt anything.
And if it is in the belt system, they actually make a complete belt system for it because of this problem. It comes with the belt and all the pulleys.
Just for this vehicle. I mean...
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, there's most... We can get in trouble saying anything, but most vehicles, if you run it without the accessory belt for 30 seconds to a minute, you're not going to hurt anything.
Right.
Yeah. If the engine's cold, you're fine. And that's what he's doing. He's checking it when it's cold.
I just didn't want people going out and popping
No.
belts.
With our dismantling operation, we have many cars that come in without belts on them because of the accident, and we have to test them and start them, and they're cold. You start them up. You really got to pay attention. You don't heat the engine up and damage something, but you can run them for just a bit and make sure everything's okay, and then stop.
But the belt kit's going to come with your idler pulley or tensioner pulley and the belt. It's not going to come with a power steering pulley or anything like that. But if you do take the belt off and you're going to replace it with a complete kit like that, make sure that you clean the grooves out. If there's any belt material left, they've got to be cleaned out very well, or you're going to contaminate the new belt and have to say, I just put a belt on it, and you're going to want a warranty, and it's going to be the same problem because you just didn't do the job complete. That's important. If it's inside the engine that's chirping, that's a complete different thing because that may require a complete teardown to find out what's going on with it.
You could have something going on in the top end of the engine, in the lifters and the rocker arms. There could be something in there that's starting to get dry, maybe a little bushing that's out or something like that. I remember I had a Avalanche, and I'm like, Russ, what's this noise? And it sounds like a belt, and it ended up being a cam and lifter issue on that particular one. And it was like, you better leave that here. And then it was like, we're going to bring that to the dealership. You still got warranty. And they ended up having to rebuild the whole top of the engine under warranty at like 30,000 miles. But so things happen.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. Hour 2 is coming up, 866-594-4150.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to take your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
SEMA, we mentioned that before. It's the week of SEMA. We'd love to be out there. Just wasn't in the cards this year, but the automotive world is coming back together again in person in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's the biggest, baddest show in the earth of automotive.
Cool.
And unveilings and new products, that's where they're at. And I had seen this article, and then show contributor Rodney had sent me the same article, but one of the things that Car and Driver was showing as a new discovery, and Ford, I believe, is the one that has it, a retractable exhaust tip for off-roading. And so it's actually got an actuator on it, so the exhaust tip can slide in and out when you're like in an off-road mode. So you don't, if you've got a bigger tip required, let's say it's a diesel or something like that, or a performance vehicle, just like James Bond, you can pull that stuff back in when you're in a certain condition to not have problems with getting it hit or sticking out if it's needed for performance for some reason, and they want to bring that exhaust out further away from the body. It's got a retractable exhaust tip. But that was the story that caught our attention. But the one that was at the bottom of the page that we had talked about when we came in the studio today, at the unveiling night on Tuesday night, which is super cool. I was there 2 years ago when they did that. There was a bunch of neat unveils done, and they drive them across the stage before they bring them into the show. And so they're showing this different stuff. But Chevrolet fired up their LT4 powered, which is a hot rod variant engine Corvette, off-road vehicle that looks like one of the Warthogs from Halo.
There you go.
And it is called the Beast. And it's a 650 horsepower, purpose-built off-road vehicle. That's the same engine that's in the C7 Corvette Z06. So I know what that motor sounds like and feels like. My dad's got one of those cars. And this thing, I'm looking at a picture of it on my phone right now. It's pretty massive looking. But they fired that thing up and drove it up out of the. They did the same thing when I was there with the C8 race version, the C8R Corvette, which was just getting introduced at that time when I was there. And they came out of the dark, out of a shipping container with the headlights on, and you could just hear the rip of that engine. And then they drove it out and revved it up and then drove it up on the stage, and everybody cheered. But they did a similar thing, it looks like, with this Beast. They kind of drove it out of the shadows with the headlights on and then popped it up onto their stage, and that was quite an entrance.
Looks like my Isuzu Amigo.
Have you got it up on the screen there?
Yeah.
We got to show Russ there. He's not seeing it. You could see he's got such good eyes. I don't know if you can see my phone or not there, Russ. But that turned sideways. Can you see?
No,
that?
it didn't.
Oh, what happened there? But anyway, it is a total off-road rig, and it's going to be cool. And I don't know what they're going to do with it, but once again, they're proving what they can do. And it's got 13 inches of ground clearance. Metal doors on it. This looks like it would be a lot of fun. Looks like it would be a lot of fun.
It does look like a lot of fun.
Somebody had asked with the SEMA show going on, that's where they talk about a lot of stuff in the offices and the back
A lot of
rooms, meetings and stuff. Asked about the Right to Repair Act and how that's going, because we've done some interviews and talked to people on this show about that and how telematics are being, all these things.
Your data, your...
Yeah, is it your data, where you drive and all that kind of stuff?
Your car, your data.
Right now, they're still in the middle of it. There's nothing really new to report on that ground, because they asked, well, what's going on, what's new? But they're in talks, as it'll continue to be ongoing till the end of the time, I think. But there's more and more data in these vehicles now than ever before, and it's continuing to go. And anytime you get a chance to decide and you just ignore it, you don't have the right to complain about it later if you've ignored it. Because if they ask you, if they do a survey when you buy a new car or something and says, hey, would you be opposed to us using all your data? What do you think about when repair time comes? I know everybody's excited about the new car, but those are times to voice your opinion and say, no, I don't think that they should be able to capture all the images from my car's cameras and use them however they see fit. I don't think they should be able to direct me only to a dealership when my car's check engine light comes on. I think I should be able to go to other places and have them direct me there, or just say, no, I don't want that to pop up and tell me those things. I don't want them to have my information. So keep an eye on it, and when those things come up, it's just as important as anything else.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Kevin. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Kevin, what can we do for you?
Oh, hi there. I've got a check engine light issue also. I took it to a mechanic, and I got the 5.7 2012 Dodge pickup, and I don't know, he congratulated me kind of and said I have the cam lifter problem. He took and looked at a few different options of plugs, the different things, and kind of narrowed it down to it. I don't know. I was wondering how much does it really cost to put cam lifters in on a situation like that, or is there any other things it could be? Or
if it's making the noise and he's told you that's the problem it has, that's very likely that's plausible what's going on. If it is cam and lifters, you got to find out if there's been any damage in there. If there's metal in that oil, don't fix it. Just put an engine in it. If there's no metal in the oil, yeah, you could fix that. You could put a cam and lifters in it. But once that starts happening, the same thing with the GM engines. When those 5.3s, when they start losing those camshafts in these active fuel management engines, you can't fix them. You can change the AFM manifold for active fuel management manifold, the cam, the lifters, change the oil a couple times, get it as clean as you can. You can still have problems with it down the road, and it's very expensive to do that job. So you might look along the lines of a certified used engine complete to go in there with a warranty. Don't just get any old used engine with no warranty on it. You want to get something that's got a good, like when we do them, we guarantee them for a year, parts and labor, unlimited mileage, which tells customers we have faith in that product. We have thoroughly checked it and tested it, and we know it's installed correctly. There are places out there, unfortunately.
What are we talking about on a price of a replace the engine?
You've got to call a shop and ask what the price is today, and then either get a down payment in there or get that vehicle in so it's in their hands so that price is secured, because prices are literally changing almost every day. Because if the engine they quote you for $3,000 is on the shelf today and you wait till tomorrow to buy it and it's gone and the next engine's up there, it might cost more money, just like food and everything else just seems to be changing. Some of them have gone down.
No, this pickup now it makes absolutely no noise. It runs great. I mean, it just seems like if it gets below 1,000 RPM, it has you can feel a little miss to it. But if you step on it a little bit and it's running at 1,000 or above, it runs great.
Well, they've probably done a leak down test and a compression check on the engine and found that at those low RPMs, it's dropping out.
How many miles are on this truck?
There's 90,000 on it.
Yeah, that's pretty low mileage, to have that problem going on. Because the early Rams, what we saw in some of those is they would have problems with the valve guides in the heads, and then some of that material eventually would float up through the valve cycle and get up into the intake manifold.
Yep.
And so then that material, when it got warm, would stick. Some of it would drop, and then it would pull it back through the engine, and it just became like a sandblaster to cause damage inside of that engine. Is something you have to be aware of. Before a person would pass verdict on it, and there again, they've probably already done this, they do need to have that thing analyzed in a way where they're looking at a scanner, and they're seeing, okay, I got a misfire here, I got a misfire here. To confirm it's not a couple of injectors that are dirtied up real bad that aren't allowing it to run smooth at that idle. You want to rule out all that stuff, and I'm assuming they've done that if they're telling you that. Russ, how long will they usually go in that condition?
I've seen them go for a year without any further problems, but I've also seen when we've looked at one and said, oh, when did this start? Oh, 2 days ago. Yeah, I don't know. It's making a little bit. It could last a day. It could last a month. Could last 10 years? I don't know. You're just going to have to see. And then they call back that afternoon and say, hey, this thing got super noisy and it sounds like it's going to explode and the oil light's on, check engine lights on. It's like, well, okay, it's done.
That material must have came from and got into the wrong place pretty quick.
Yep,
in that
it
case.
happens.
Ballpark of a used engine?
They're
the prices
all over
will
the
jump
place.
all over the place, anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000, depending on the mile it's on.
I've seen installed prices in the last 2 weeks anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 on a used engine, and no remands available in some cases.
Kevin, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Here's a call that came into the Hoodie Hotline.
Hi, this is Randy. I listen on KFMC out of Fairmont, Minnesota. I'm in Wyndham, Minnesota. I've got a 93 GMC 3/4 ton pickup with a 350 Chevy in it, or 350 cubic inch motor. The EGR valve keeps whistling. I've noticed that at idle, especially in drive or in low, any one of the gears, motor has a tendency to sputter, drop out slightly, kind of stumble a little bit. The EGR valve, I replaced it about a month ago. It's all sooty black again. I just removed it, looked at it. Is it possible that they've got bad injectors?
I think it's possible you have a plugged up catalytic converter. And what's happening is that you've got back pressure, so that is pushing exhaust gases out the point of least resistance, which would be your EGR valve, and burning it up and sooting it up with carbon.
Yeah, because that 93 with a throttle body fuel injection, you've just got two injectors up in that throttle body that looks a little bit like a carburetor, but it's if that was plugged up that bad to run that poor, it wouldn't run very good. I mean, because it's there's nothing else to give it fuel, so it's most likely not that. But Russ is right on to a great idea, I think, there to check out. You could pull out an oxygen sensor and see if it'll breathe a little bit, and if that helps.
They make a pressure gauge. You can screw into your exhaust pipe and see what it's at. It should be down like under a half a pound at 1,500 steady RPM. If it's up 2 or 3 or 4 pounds, then there's definitely a problem. That's going to cause that hesitation and running poorly and fuel problems.
And the EGR systems were suspect on those vehicles anyway, the valves. I mean, we replaced and you guys put on tons of those EGR valves.
And he had one that thought was bad. He put another one on that was brand new, and now it's the same condition. Yeah, he's got something going on. I would suspect the exhaust is clogged.
866-594-4150. You can call that number 24 hours a day. You can leave a message. We can call you back during the show, or we might just play your message.
Yeah, hi, this is Kurt Johnson calling from Lexington, Nebraska. I had a question about Ford's new Ecoboost truck compared to their standard 5.0 truck. As far as mileage, which one would be the better truck? I know there's a lot of hype about this new Ecoboost, so can you give me your opinion on this new Ecoboost truck?
Well, thanks for asking. And we do have opinions on these trucks, and I think that as we talk with people, it's very important that you identify the use of the pickup to make your decision. And we have, of recent, had conversations in person on the show with people that have had EcoBoosts that they've used in some very heavy conditions and have gotten tons of miles out of them. The common thread, though, is that it was the EcoBoost with the towing package, and it was engineered and built that way with the towing package, so it has the extra coolers, it has the extra lower gear ratio, bigger tranny cooler, engine cooler. They know that they're going to be building up extra heat, so they design it for that. Where we run into problems with the EcoBoosts are people that buy them and they want the value of the fuel economy, because a EcoBoost truck driving down the highway, the interstate, even around town, your average fuel economy is pretty darn good. When you hook a trailer to it, it goes down pretty fast. And if you hook a trailer to one that's not geared to be a towing package and the trailer is just a little bit too heavy and you do it a little bit too often, you will have problems. We've just seen enough of them get burned down by the excessive heat that's generated. They end up with bottom end problems. We've seen stretch timing chains, just different things when they're I'm not going to say abused, but used beyond the engineering spec that they built them for. That 5-liter engine has seemed really solid. You're gonna get a little less fuel economy. If you're going to pull every now and then, I would recommend it because your average fuel economy will probably end up being about the same because the fuel economy dips really quick on an EcoBoost when you start pulling with it, heavier loads, just the way it's engineered. But that has proven to be a good engine overall. But what we see problems is when they get used outside of their designed thresholds. Would that be the best way to say it, Russ?
For sure. Yeah, if they're over their max limit, they're going to fail.
Or even getting close to it, because people always say, well, this can tow 10,000 pounds. I'm pulling 10,000 pounds. Well, they start off with something with 10,000 pounds, and then before they know it, they're adding something onto it, and they're pulling into a heavy wind, and you're just working that thing beyond what it was engineered for.
We've got a guy with a well, you've seen that camper sitting in our parking lot.
I did see that camper.
Yeah, that's not mine.
The Wolf Tracks or whatever it is?
Yeah, Wolfpack. Yeah, so he bought that, and he says, well, how much can my truck tow? And we're like, well, this much. We got a camper, and its dry weight is what his truck can tow. Well, okay. Well, then you load that thing up with all your stuff, and now you're over what that truck can tow. Yeah, it comes up pretty quick. But we've had several people ask us, well, what's my max tow rating? Oh, your truck can pull 10,000 pounds. That's what the max rating is. Oh, okay, great. Well, don't forget about the 80% rule and how about your load. Okay, whatever. And they come in and we're like, what have you done to why are your exhaust manifolds cracked? Well, I just got that camper. You said it could tow 10,000 pounds. I said, no, we said your max tow rating is 10,000, which means you can pull 8,000 continuously, up and down hills, a little bit of wind and all that. That's fully loaded. Oh, well, I thought if it was good for 10, I could do at least 12, and then I could load my stuff, and I could just drive easy.
Oh, imagine if when you weigh your stuff, because, I don't know, I was never a good camper. We had to bring half the house with us with our kids and stuff when we camped. It would be a very interesting exercise if I would have done it to weigh before we left and weigh when we were loaded before we left, what the difference was.
Right.
It had to be 2,500 pounds, 3,000 pounds.
Hey, how much can you, if I said walk down the hall, down to your office, and pick up that turbocharger that's going on that we got from Dorman to go on Chris's car?
Okay.
And just the turbo there
Go
at the top.
put it in, will you?
And bring it up and down the stairs.
Should I do that now?
Is that, no, I mean, that, do you think, would you be comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Let's say that and the new turbo and his old turbo is about oh
boy,
30 pounds.
Oh, I was just gonna say before
you could do that, right?
Yeah,
30
no
pounds?
problem.
No problem.
No problem.
And you could do that quite a bit, right?
I'd say, yeah, I could do it a few times. Yeah.
Well, a hay bale's about 50 pounds. If I give you a hay bale, it's just a little over your rate. That's your max tow rating is that 50 pounds. So 50 pounds up and down the stairs.
Let's do a wet hay bale. I think I can do a little better than 50.
Yeah, so you're going into the wind. But that's one time. You're going to be a little push. But the smaller package, you could do that all day long. You get into that big package, how long can we do it? It's like, I can carry.
I get it up there.
You can.
Mm-hmm. Just like Russ, I watched him get this engine block in the corner up here. He can get that up there.
That was hilarious when I was carrying that in, and that driver, the girl driving, she looked at me, she went, "Wow, that guy's strong," and then she went, "Wait a second."
But that's he was reaching max tow limit, bringing that up the steps.
That is I
don't know if people can see what we're looking at back here. I don't know if you're watching our YouTube feed, but we've got an LS series mock engine in the back, but it is actual aluminum cylinder heads on it.
It is much heavier than I thought.
Yeah. It's a styrofoam block, but there's a full-size harmonic balancer on there, and headers, oil pan.
It's about 120 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's big. So if you grab it by the headers, you can walk up 2 flights of stairs.
You can walk up 2 flights of stairs.
And two, going back to the EcoBoost, we know people that have gotten the valuist EcoBoost, and they're just driving their pickup as their daily driver. They're not doing heavy work with it.
It's perfect.
They just want a pickup.
Yep.
it's perfect.
Yeah,
for
they
them.
take a light trailer out to the dump every once in a while. They're pulling a small fishing boat out to the river.
They used to drive a big pickup, and now they just like driving a pickup. It
perfect
works
for
great.
that. Perfect for that.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the Hoodie fan club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Lisa Stitch, who listens to us on WKZO in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu, helping you get trained to learn all about today's cars and past cars as well, and future cars, electric, gas, all of them. Also, marine mechanics, welding, CNC machining, motorcycle mechanics, uti.edu.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Idaho and talk to Robert. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Robert, what can we do for you?
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I appreciate that. I just recently bought a 2019 Buick Encore Essence. It was a one-owner car, wonderful little outfit. And I bought it about a year ago in the fall, and wonderful through the snow. And then spring comes, and I turn on the air conditioning, and I get this really foul smell. And I go, yo, that's not good. And so I go and make sure, and I always make sure I have the cabin filter changed. And so I go and change that, turn it on again, and it's still pretty bad. So I go to the dealer. The dealer says, well, we don't know what to do about that, but why don't you try a can of Fridge Fresh or whatever that stuff's called. And I tried that, and seemed to work throughout the summer, as long as I kept it going, like about once every 2 or 3 weeks. And then I ended up taking this fall, as I turn on the heat, the smell comes in again. I go, great. So I put a little bit more of that odor in there, and I still get a slight smell of that horrible odor. What are your thoughts?
Once it starts, it's very hard to get rid of, and you have to constantly treat it. It's not gonna go away. It's
That's
bacteria.
not what he wants to hear, Russ.
No, it's just the way it is. So there's bacteria in there that's getting on that coil, on that evaporator coil, which will spread to the heater core coil and to the box and the doors and every single component in there. So
you can't even just go ahead and replace the whole thing.
You could, but it's going to come back again.
Right.
It's just the design of certain cars is worse than others. But what you can do to help prevent it is use a system like the mist system. We get that from our Justice Brothers partner, and we put it in there, and it sucks in this mist that comes out of a fogger machine. Looks like an old disco fogger, and you put it on the floor, you turn it on, and it pulls it through the system. Does a very effective job at cleaning up the inside of this box. And then you spray a can in the vents as well, and that helps disinfect stuff. But what you can do to prevent things in between those cleanings, which may have to be done every 6 months in some cars that are really bad, when you are headed towards your destination, you've got your AC on, you're a block away, reach over there and push the button that turns the AC off and the vents only are running, and turn the blower on high, just so the refrigeration is off,
dry it out.
The air is blowing, it's not cold anymore, it'll eventually dissipate, and it'll just be blowing that warm air. Well, what happens is now it has nothing for the condensation to build up on because your box is warmer. If you've got a cold part and a hot, humid day, it's going to condense. So if you can lower that condensation rate by raising that temperature, you're going to drastically improve that. Some cars, luxury cars, are actually built with what they call an afterblow relay in there. So when you turn the key off and take it out, we've had people call the show in the past and say, hey, my blower stays on for 4 minutes after I get out of the car on low. What's up with that? It's like, well, it's supposed to do that. And some cars you can enable that feature. This car, I don't believe there is any setting for that, but there are some in some of the bigger cars.
Okay. I have another question
Sure.
in relation to that. I thought, okay, then we have that drain tube that comes out of that box down, under the
Right.
car and everything. When I pull into my garage, in my car's past, I usually have a little puddle of, clear condensation on the garage floor. But with this, I don't get that.
If you don't get that, that drain may be plugged. That drain needs to be open and needs to be draining.
We were
on
assuming that had probably
human
already
base.
been checked because that's the first place we want to do is make sure you got good flow of condensate coming out of there.
And I have done that multiple times. I've gone clear up in there and still no water unless it's hitting on the exhaust protectors and stuff like that, and it's just evaporating before it gets to the ground. But I can't seem to see any water at all coming out of there.
They haven't.
And I've gone like
They haven't invented anything yet that stops the physics of condensation.
Why don't they drop it on the motor so it burns up?
You go.
Some people might get a little freaked out if there was steam or
Steam,
sizzle.
yeah, I suppose, yeah.
But you should on a hot, warm summer day, you should have condensate coming out of there. If you don't, there's something not right, Russ.
And it'll
right?
smell.
Yeah.
Well, look around
That's
at
a
other
horrible
cars.
smell.
You can see them all the time at intersections. If you see water running out of a car on a good hot day, go, oh, look at that. And then look at yours.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and gives me a few more items to look at before I decide to get rid of it. So.
Robert, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. There's a comment on YouTube from Lath that says, Shannon, it's a landfill, not a dump.
We don't always have to be
Don't
correct
say the
with our
D
words.
word. Then they said, kind of like
It's fair.
recycling.
It's fair. You can
Waste
say
disposal facility.
You can say junkyard. I just don't. I get it.
866-594-4150. We're going back to Minnesota to talk to Travis. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Travis, what can we do for you?
Well, I was calling to find out. I have a 68 Plymouth Baracuda with a 340 engine in it. And I'm thinking of rebuilding it. I got it back when I was in high school. And back then, I had a heating issue, so I did blow the motor one time. And then they sleeved one of the cylinders. But now this time when I rebuild it, I'd like to put in a stroker kit for like a 408 or a 410. Is that a good idea with that sleeved cylinder? Because I would be boring it out, just going a longer stroke. Or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, that is a
Work and pressure on that thing and heat. And if they've got to bore it to match out other cylinders, then you end up with less material in that cylinder. I think that most of the machinists that we've dealt with over the years would recommend, if you're going to do that, if you're going to go right back to a 340 again, sure, that's why they sleeved it. But if you're going to take that to the next level, you probably want to start with a fresh block if you can find one. They're out there. That's I think that's our opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that help you out there, Travis?
Yeah, that's kind of the way I was leaning. I just didn't want to put all that work into it, and it only lasts a couple months.
Agreed.
Before you go, Travis,
here we go.
Shannon has a question for you.
Yeah, this Baracuda, you say you've owned it since high school, right?
Yep.
And is it now is the body still in pretty good shape? Is it rusty or is it pretty solid?
It's pretty. There is some. That's part of what I'm going to do because it was painted back in the early '80s, and that needs to be freshened up.
All right. So stop right there.
Are we going to go with the original color?
I think we got to do both.
Okay.
We got to guess both what the
Okay.
original color was and what they changed it to. So I'm going to say the car was originally probably yellow.
Okay.
And they repainted it orange.
Okay.
I think it
Russ?
was probably originally silver, and now it's kind of a dark maroon color.
I think it was blue, and they repainted it blue. Travis, what is it?
Well, actually, it was a red, and then it was repeated 67 Hemi red, which is kind of an orangish red with the black stripe down the center.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't get close.
No,
enough.
not even close.
I mean, I got this. I got it painted the same color. I'm going to take that one as a win. Yeah. Travis, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's go now to Arizona and talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood Show. John, what can we do for you?
Hello, guys. Thank you. I have a 2015 Ford Taurus SHO, and my problem is the AC or the heater, whatever it's on, it turns on and off automatically by itself. I would have to go to the touchscreen to turn it back on, reset the climate control, and then all of a sudden it goes off and it comes back on by itself. I know it's not the touchscreen because that works fine, but underneath the touchscreen, there's more displays for the AC and climate control, and that's like a touch too as well. There's no buttons. You just touch it, and now it's just having problems with it. I can't figure it out.
Fun car, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very fun.
Yeah, that's a twin turbo 3.5, correct?
Yes, it is. Twin turbo, correct. Yes, Ecoboost, all-wheel drive.
They use that same motor as an option in the Taurus cop cars that you could get too, and there's a lot of people really enjoy that motor, and if you take care of them, they're a lot of fun. If they break, they're very expensive.
Ecoboost.
Yes, indeed.
What do you think's going on with this temperature control, Russ?
I think you may just have a failing module in there, like many of those. Well, which module is it? Is it the touch screen that's starting to short, which is causing problems in the radio module? Is it a problem with the body control module? I mean, these are all.
Do they have a human interface module behind the scenes?
Basically, it's a part of the body control module.
Okay.
We are replacing radios and radio components and touchscreen components in GM and Ford cars primarily, everything from 2014 on up. They're just very problematic. The GMs with the tablets on the dash now, we haven't had a problem with that. But the 19 and older stuff, oh man, it's just crazy. It's daily somebody's calling with a problem on one of those.
On my pickup, I got a light that started flashing on and off on one of my LEDs on the backlighting, and it's on the multi-position floor heat defrost button. So
now those components are all pretty cheap used, and they're all programmable, which is the good thing. But finding which one is doing it can be very tricky.
what do you do? Where do you start when they come in the shop?
Well, we happen to own a large auto recycling business, so we keep a few around, and we have kept a few because we've had cars in the past we worked on, and we got all these components, and I said, I know they're good because it didn't fix the problem, and we found out later, what was going on. So we just kept them. I said, don't send those back. They were paid for months ago. Hang on to them and find out what's going on. So we if we don't know for sure which one of the three it is, you put it in, see if it fixes it. If it does, you sell them one. If it doesn't, you move on. And not everybody has that luxury. And there's no way to diagnose one specific part unless it throws a glaring mistake at you and it's burnt or something. Very difficult to figure that out. But it's you got a screen, you've got a radio, and then you have a body control module in the car, and all three of those operate this. Now, the body control module is common to the screen and common to the climate control. We've got a Ford Flex right now, and those things are a nightmare for this kind of thing. We put a body control module in it because we found out you could just tap on it and wiggle the wires, and it would shut off everything, and it would. When it would come back on, then it would reset. Like you said, you'd have to reset all the climate stuff. Then it would go off again. So, just one of those things. When we see those, we go, I don't want to work on that.
So there you go, John. Not a great answer.
No, unfortunately.
If it doesn't do it that often, it might be okay.
Yeah, it works when it wants to, but that's all right.
John, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That car is way cooler looking than I thought. I looked it up.
Were you imagining like still a little bit of the older Taurus in your
I think
head?
so, yeah.
The
Yeah.
oval, elliptical, everything.
The jelly bean
Yeah.
type.
No, think Taurus police car.
Yeah.
Not the SUV, but the car.
And maybe, yeah, that's a good-looking vehicle. 866-594-4150. We're going to stay in Arizona and talk to Ron. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Ron, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Hey, listen, I have a '07 Chevy Impala with a 3.5, I guess it is, V6. I have a check engine light that is on steady. It's been on for a month. The car runs and performs, and the gas mileage is absolutely normal. Everything works fine. I just wonder, do you have any idea what that could be caused by? We put a code checker on it and got a code, and it listed about 10 or 12 different things that it could be. I don't want to chase it down with a mechanic. I'm not one to go out there and work on new stuff. I build old cars, but not this new stuff. I don't have the technology in my brain. But, I mean, it said clean the air filter, clean the air sensor, blah, blah, blah. And we reset the code, and it came back on within a few miles. But the car runs excellent.
Do you know what code it was?
I'm not at the house right now. I have it written down, but I don't have it in my memory.
Because what a lot of these systems do now, when you buy a code reader or if you go to your local auto parts store and have them read the code, they give the code and then they give you ideas, suggestions in the software that say what potentially could fix the problem. And so when you see that,
Right.
you get that laundry list, and I'm just going to say it. That's sometimes what we're doing here on this radio show if we don't have the car in front of us to actually diagnose what's going on.
Right.
You start giving the laundry list of things that people should check just to kind of get their mind jiving a little bit. That, hey, did you think of this? Did you think of this? And sometimes they do run across that, you know what, we never thought that could be connected with it. And then you check that, and it's like, oh, that worked. That was easy. And there's other times it takes more diagnostic work than that. Is that car a car that's been in Arizona its whole life, or is it a winter car that ended up in Arizona?
No, it was born here.
Okay.
It's got 130,000 miles on it.
And so
the car is like new,
Yeah.
other than the odometer says 130,000. But
So it hasn't seen a bunch of gravel roads, and it's been in a pretty clean environment down there in Arizona its whole life.
yes, it has. It has. Uh-huh.
Because in our part of the world where we start running into check engine lights on cars like that, it's usually related to the emission system. It's related to the fuel vapor canisters, the check valves, the purge valves, the things that check that pressure in that evaporative emission system. That's where we run into a lot of those problems. But if it's not giving a code that's related to that evaporative emission system, because that's one that'll come on and the engine will run usually quite well. You won't even notice it. Most all cars, if that's the code, it's going to run quite well, but it's just giving you a warning that, hey, you know what, you're venting more to the environment than you're supposed to,
Right.
and we need to fix that because we've got rules that we build these cars by, and you're beyond our rules. And so we got to fix this. And so that's usually the type of code that will make it not perform poorly. So if it's not performing poorly, now if it is performing well and you've got this code, it's not the fuel emission system, Russ, where's the next steps they're going to look? I guess without knowing the code, it's just something. Where's the next place you start looking?
They're going to read it and go from there.
Because it's going to tell them what system to
that's
look
a
at.
base they need. I mean, even if they went through fixing stuff without the code, they're still going to have to read it in the end to get it cleared.
Common things on that car that we could just give them some ideas.
Thermostat and coolant temp sending unit, huge problem. Evaporative emissions, the canister purge valve and vent valve, and the canister itself, even in a clean environment at this
and
age.
any of those things will let the car still run fine.
And catalyst efficiency low, bad catalytic converter, failing. Those are the three main things we see on those.
Ron, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Going to take at least one more step there to figure it out. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Sean. Sean, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
We inherited a 2018 Buick Enclave, 25,000 miles on it, and I just got to drive it here the first time about a month ago. And when I stepped on the accelerator, I'm noticing almost a kind of stuttering in the transmission as it's accelerating through the first couple of gears. And I was just kind of wondering if that's something you guys maybe have heard of on these vehicles. I have zero experience with the Enclaves at all, so I don't know what might be or where might be a good place to start.
Could be a few things, but one of the main things on it would be ignition coil packs, the coils and spark plugs. Just time for a major tune-up, and that involves, there's no plug wires, so it's the whole coil pack. And if it's kind of stumbling under load, but not under a steady cruise or going downhill, only uphill and under that load, it's very likely that's what's going on.
Just a quick question. As far as the car goes, you just inherited it, you said. Had the car been setting for a while and not been ran prior to you guys driving it?
It has been very little, so it would have been sitting around a lot more than it would have been driven.
I'm going to advise that you drive that a little bit for a while and let the adaptives kind of adapt to your driving style, because I'm assuming you inherited it probably from an older person that was driving it. Is that fair?
Yep, and my daughter's currently driving it every day, going back and forth to school because her car's in the shop getting the frame swapped.
Yeah, with 25,000 miles on a 2018 Enclave, we haven't heard a lot of complaints about drivability issues with the transmission or anything like that. GM's got a pretty proven powertrain in that chassis, and an 18, I believe, was the redesigned body style, correct? I think that was a newer generation of that Enclave. I think it was. But, I would just, if there's no check engine lights and it's just stumbling a little bit, just drive it another 100 miles or something like that and let some of those adaptives relearn. Let the car just kind of come back to life again and just see what happens. I think it'll smooth out.
Sean, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Until next time, you can find us at underthehoodshow.com. Don't forget to join us on Facebook, and you can check out our YouTube feed as well. Thanks for joining us on the Under the Hood Show. For Russ Evans, Shannon Nordstrom, I'm Chris Carter. This has been the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Kevin. Kevin, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I got a 2013 F150 with a turbo boost. I've been driving. I got it. It's got low miles. When I got it, it was only at 47,000 on it, and I was changing oil every 3,000. Recently, I just inherited an old car that I drive to work now. Now my pickup sits in the shed, and the last time I oil changed it, it was back in April. And the light comes on the dash saying change your oil, and I happen to look at the tag, and I only had driven it 200 miles. Now, my question is, do I just change the filter? Do I change oil? Or don't worry about it?
Well, that truck does not have an intelligent oil meter. The oil meter that's coming up is based on drive cycles, algorithms, miles. And so, do you know, was it reset after the last oil change?
I couldn't tell you. It was the Ford dealership did it.
It's a possibility that they did not reset the oil change indicator light. And so now, as it sat, time and everything else, it was, because you probably changed it the first time before the interval, and so the light never came on. And if they forgot to reset it, now it's coming on if it hasn't been driven very much, because it's saying, okay, all of our signals say you should be changing the oil right now. So if you physically know that the oil change was done, how many miles on it since the oil change, you said, probably?
Well, the oil change, right now, they only has 57,000, and the oil change tag on the windshield, so you got to change it at 61. Well, I haven't even gotten to 61 yet. And I know right there it's 200 miles that I've only driven it.
They didn't reset it then.
Yeah.
It'll go by time and engine load and heat and stuff like that, but they must not have got it reset, or they didn't reset it to the full time and mileage. They went to reset it, and it only partially reset.
But do I change oil or just
hey, go 3,000 miles with it?
If the oil's still really clean in there, if it looks real clean when you pull the stick out, you could probably go longer. But if it's been a long time and that oil's pretty dark, it's definitely recommended to change it.
Change it and reset everything and just start.
The low miles.
Yeah, just start over. Exactly, because you want to protect that. You got a very valuable piece there with that low mileage and that truck.
Well, the oil filters aren't meant to sit a very long time in oil.
Yeah, what Russ just said is really important. If you didn't catch that, the oil filters don't stand the test of time
sitting.
Yeah. Because if it's been too long. But you said it's just been months, basically, right?
It's just been sitting in the shed all this time.
Yeah, but how long?
You know, since April.
Yeah, so you're talking months.
Time to change it.
It's probably it's time to change the oil and filter and reset everything. And if it's going to sit now quite a bit, get the extended life oil filter if it's available, because it's made out of a bit different material inside of it that's meant to be sitting there with the oil soak on it for longer, and you'll be able to get that full year or more out of that vehicle if you're not going to drive it very often. But sometimes we need to get in there and change that oil filter and get it changed out just because it's time. Time is not good on them sitting with oil in them.
That help you out there, Kevin?
Yeah, I was just thinking the next time now, how long can I go even when it sits in the shed now?
Well, is the shed climate controlled?
No, it's a tin shed.
Yeah, you're going to want to. I think you're going to want to do it seasonally, just because of the condensation factor. Because you got your hot and cold, and if you're in this part of the country where our home market is at, those big temperature swings develop a lot of moisture inside that engine. If you're not getting that out on a regular basis every week or two to drive it 30, 40 miles, you're going to develop moisture in there, and just that chemical package that's in that oil will break down from the moisture. And so I would recommend doing it seasonally at that point. Just, when I say seasonally, probably annually, just right before winter or whatever it might happen to be.
Kevin, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show after show.
And we're still going.
Yeah, we're still going. We're going to take another one right here. I have to stop now so we have a good edit point. Let's talk to Max. Max, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hi, guys, and thank you for a wonderful show. Please excuse my accent. I'm South African. I have a question about F150 5.0. It's a 2011, and it runs and drives great, but I have a little bit of a problem with its transmission. From cold start, about 40 miles into my drive, I think when the oil heats up, in sixth gear, it sort of feels like it's downshifting to fifth, and it's upshifting, downshifting in sixth gear all the time, and I'm wondering what the problem might be.
First of all, don't excuse yourself for your accent.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm jealous.
Forgive my accent. I'm from Minnesota.
You guys.
When you have a vehicle that is what we always have called it over the years, not holding a gear, because it's getting up there and it's going through its progression of shift patterns, and as it goes, you're dropping RPMs.
Yes,
those taller gears in the transmission, they're not as heavy or strong of a gear. They don't have as big of a clutch material to be able to hold. I guess the pressures are different at that point. And so if it is starting to drop out of sixth gear, it's either because it has one of the electronic valves that shifts and holds that pressure to that gear that is not holding correctly or seeping fluid by because of a seal or a problem with the solenoid itself. The valve body would be the way some people will call it. Or there's wear in that gear, and it's causing it to not be able to hold that pressure because it's bypassing within the clutch pack of that gear. So it drops down to another gear that says, okay, I'm comfortable here. So they're going to want to watch that on a scanner and see what's happening. And you can tell a lot of that stuff, correct, Russ, nowadays, just by how you read it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can see it looking at the scanner as you drive it and see what's going on, but it sounds like it may have it could be a solenoid that's starting to fail in there. It could be lots of different things. It could be a programming update needs to be done. But
It'd be great if it was just a programming update and there was something just out of whack, but they're going to want to have a technician that's good with those sort of things, just watching the data as they're driving it and look at what's stored in the system now, and so they can make those determinations. And what'd you say the miles were on it?
280,000.
There's a really good chance that it's got a worn clutch and it just can't hold that gear with that many miles on it.
Yep. Yeah, it still looks brand new. Taking very good care of it, but yeah. I think maybe because it's got the wider tires on it, that might have an effect as well.
Well, it will if the tires are different size than the factory, different height, and it has not been reprogrammed for that, because it'll try to shift it at its normal RPM, but the truck's not rolling fast enough because it's got the tires are not rotating at the same speed, so it wants to kick down to that lower gear normally. So if they're taller than the original, it's going to have to be reprogrammed so that your speedometer is correct and shift points are correct.
That would have happened before now, right? I mean, how long have that tire been on there?
About 10,000 miles, but I've experienced the problem since I put the tires on, basically.
Yep. Then I would say check if your speedometer is not 100% correct. Then by reprogramming that tire size into the computer, you may take care of all your problems.
Thank you very much, sir.
You bet. Thank you,
Max. Thanks very much for the call.
That went from bad to not bad.
Yeah.
I guess that detail about the not factory tires and rims is a very important one when it came down to it. And when he brought that up. Now, there again, for people listening, if he just put wider tires on, you're going to increase some load. You're going to get different suspension characteristics. But you shouldn't change the rollout.
Right.
But when you start changing the rollout of that tire because the size is different, then you're changing the calibration of what the computer expects.
We had a question on that on the YouTube chat, too, about going from 22-inch to 24-inch. There's a whole lot of things that can happen if you don't adjust for it.
100%. If you now in a lot of new cars, it can come down to suspension valving. It come down to transmission shifting.
ABS brakes.
Braking systems. There's so many systems that are affected by the proper calibration of all of it. It's a concert, and if all of a sudden you change one of the players in the concert and don't tell them, and they're running at a different tempo,
right? The
whole thing kind of gets screwed up, and that's what'll happen.
Nice analogy.
I'm not even a band person.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
but if you got I'm kind of proud of that myself. Actually,
very well done.
What if it was somebody with a cymbal? And there's
any it does matter unless it's like woodwinds, then it doesn't matter.
What about a damage symbol that they've cut a piece out of?
Yeah, and what you gotta do is you gotta get your Dremel out and you can cut out the crack and you got a perfectly good symbol.
Last week after the show, Chris had brought. We did a special show on Saturday,
right,
on YouTube. It was like an after-hour show, and Chris had a symbol with him.
Yep,
and I think he was trying to pawn it off on one of us to fix it.
I was trying to figure out how to get it fixed, how to cut out the crack, because I had a cymbal years and years ago that cracked.
Like a musical cymbal we're talking here, not like
drum.
Not like a hazard
Like
symbol
Prince.
off of a semi-trailer or something.
So I had a hole cut in. My neighbor just cut out the crack, and the cymbal has been working for 30 years.
That amazes me. It would still have the same sound.
Doesn't have the same sound, but it has an okay sound. It's not the same by any means, but it just sounds like a different cymbal. It works okay. The hole's pretty small. And I had another cymbal that was cracked that I didn't crack. I got it cracked. And it's a very nice cymbal. And I wanted to see if someone could cut the hole out of it. And I don't remember what you guys said last week, but it made me think of
High-speed cutoff wheel.
Yeah, that just made me
Sparks
think.
flying. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
We were talking about brazing. Well,
Yeah.
But all these things, when we're talking about it, I'm thinking, that symbol will never be the same.
Well, and you said, well, you could just have someone braze it. And my thought was, it took me like 2 years to go through the trouble of bringing it in here when I was just coming here every week. So I knew I wasn't going to bring it anywhere.
How much money can you spend on a cymbal? I'm not into that stuff at all.
Lots.
So
a very high-end cymbal, like the one I had was a very high-end cymbal decades ago.
Okay.
I mean, it's an old cymbal. But yeah, you can get for one cymbal, you can get into the multiple hundreds of dollars.
Okay, so the high-end cymbal is a couple $100, let's say, $250.
Problem, yeah.
Okay,
Can't you get
$300
the
for a
same
high-end cymbal.
sound out of a garbage can lid?
So
I can, yeah. I don't.
So how much?
Well, you're just
if you
good.
took the $300 cymbal, even if it's a decade old, and you cut a 3-inch arced cut out of it that's an inch wide, does that turn it into a $50 cymbal? The sound?
Yes, for sure.
Because it just, to me, it seemed like something that made no sense when you said, I'm just going to cut it out.
Yeah,
think
and
you're
all
just
I needed to do was
tuning.
kind of end the buzz. That's really all I needed to do was end the yeah.
And when you dropped it in the hallway,
Yeah,
was that on purpose?
Yeah, it was because you were walking away, and I knew it would scare the crap out of you. So I tossed the cymbal down the hall toward you.
It made me turn around pretty quick. I didn't jump.
No, you
but
did
there was a
okay.
reaction. So
Well, I was in the bathroom right when you threw it at the bathroom door there, and it, it was scary.
Good thing
is that
you
why
were
we had to
there.
clean the wall?
Good thing I was already in there.
But yeah, so I whatever you guys said made me think of my Dremel, and I had just bought an accessory kit, and I thought, I think there might be a cutoff wheel in there. And it was maybe 40 seconds of work, and it works great. I just don't hit it on the hole. You got to turn it so it's at the top. And it's the type of cymbal it is. It's a ride cymbal, so you're not really cranking on it. You're hitting it with the bead of the stick, and so it works just fine. And I'm not any good.
Okay.
And I just play in my basement. So I just needed it to act like a cymbal. I don't even need it to sound good at all. But it does sound fine.
That's good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, enough about that cymbal.
Yeah.
It was intriguing to me that you're just going to cut a chunk out of it. So do you have a like a Dremel name brand Dremel, or is it something else?
It's not a Dremel, but it was the next step down. You know
Because I
what
have
mean?
a kid at home that's like a Kawasaki or something like that. I probably got it at Sam's Club.
I can't remember.
And
Yeah,
it is worthless.
Mine's
the one I have is worthless.
I can't remember the name of it, but it for mine it works perfectly for me. I've only I've used it 10 times in 5 years, so it's not. And there's been many a time I've used it and gone, oh, this is just not the right. Oh gosh, that's not a good idea. Yeah, so it works great for me.
Well, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, and we've anything else we got here for the after hours show?
I think we're good. Yeah,
We're glad you were here.
yeah.
We'll be back
Next week.
I'm not here next Thursday. I forgot to tell you guys that.
Oh,
Oh,
where are you
it's
going?
Nice to know now.
I know that's late.
Just like, here
I
we
guess.
go.
No,
I guess
just-
it's fine.
No, I was thinking Thanksgiving. It'd be no big deal. But it's a week before that. We've got the Automotive Recyclers Association convention in Dallas, Texas.
Next week's not the week before Thanksgiving.
I know. It's 2 weeks. I'm all screwed
So
up.
when okay.
So
Well,
next,
let's talk about this off
no,
air.
but seriously, next Thursday I'll be in Dallas at our national convention for the Automotive Recyclers Association.
The 11th.
The 11th. I will be there over my wife's 50th birthday.
Oh, okay.
So that's great planning on my part.
Yeah, good job.
She should have had a different birthday.
That's what I think.
She's probably listening right now because she watches the After Hours show.
Mm-hmm.
But, you start putting that stuff on the schedule, and I'm not always the best planner. You guys have noticed that. I'm just kind of going by, there's this week. I got to do this week.
Do you have to now? Do you think you have a responsibility to make it more special than it would have been? Like 50th birthday, take her out to eat, get her a gift. Now you have to.
I'm going to make it special regardless. But
You want me to
I
bring
definitely feel bad.
I'll bring
that I'm
my
not there.
cymbals and my drums, and I'll play her a song on her birthday.
But it wouldn't be complete because your cymbal's damaged.
No, it'll
And
be fine.
And she deserves a complete song.
You won't be able to tell that the cymbal's different. Trust me, that's not what you're going to notice.
We are going to go out of town the following week, not affecting the radio show.
Okay.
Just her and I to go out and just be out for a few days.
I will say this to your wife. He told us what he's getting you. Oh, you are going to love it. Oh, it's going to be a surprise. So cool. This gift is. I am shocked at how
I can't
wonderful.
believe how expensive it is.
I can't believe how wonderful this gift is. That he
I don't
got.
have to buy her a gift because she buys herself gifts all the time, and she's surprised when they come to the door because she forgot what she bought.
I was thinking of that earlier in the show because.
Why is Amazon here?
What's this? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Somebody ordered something from Amazon. Oh, I did. Oh, look at this. All right, there you go. Thanks very much for joining us on the Under the Hood show. That's the after show. And
Happy
that's-
birthday, Tammy.
Yeah, happy birthday.